Hi, and welcome to the Review of Literature workshop. My name is Jennifer Morrow, and I am the Science Fair Coordinator and the Science Teacher over at Coastal. So I'm here to walk you through the Science Fair Review of Literature and to give you some tips on how to get started. Now, I am going to follow along with the PowerPoint. So if you can get that in front of you, and you can even turn me in the background and just listen to my voice. I'm going to follow along on my screen. I can see the PowerPoint, and so you might want to just go ahead and follow along with me as I talk you through the different slides. There is also a PDF version of the PowerPoint. If you're unable to open PowerPoint, I've provided the PDF there for you as well. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing is the Unit 2 Wiki. Now you'll notice that there's a blend of content and review of literature. You'll also notice that there are two different assignments. One will say 7-8 and one says East Coast. So if you are an 8th grader going on the East Coast trip in a few weeks, you'll follow East Coast. If you are a 7th grader or an 8th grader who is not going on the East Coast, you'll follow the 7-8 curriculum. So that seemed to be the best way that we can get our East Coasters to complete all their content and the review of literature, while at the same time creating an assignment for our 7th graders and non-East Coasters. So be careful as you're following along the assignment calendar to make sure you're reading the instructions that apply to you. Basically, the difference is that the 8th graders going on the East Coast trip have only 4 weeks to complete their content and their review of literature, and that's because I'm assuming that they've done science fair before, they've written papers before, so the East Coast students need to just work a little quicker. The 7th graders and the non-East Coasters, they have a little more time. So the review of literature then is due the week of November 26th, which is your Unit 2 conference. So there's quite a bit of time between now and then to get the review of literature done and to cover content. The content is half of what it was in Unit 1. So Unit 1 had 8 concepts or 8 sections to learn, whereas the Unit 2 content is only 4 sections. So your child should find it a little easier to manage their time. So the next slide then tells you to go ahead and take a look at the wiki if you haven't had a chance to do that yet. So what if you're not following the science curriculum that Coastal provides for you? You're doing your own science. Well, you can certainly have access to all the materials and have access to a pacing guide I've created just for you. If you go to Coastal Wikis, you go to the bottom of the screen, it says Science Resources, click on that, and then click on Coastal Science Fair. That has all of the resources that you need to do your science fair if you're following TCA curriculum or not. So go to the pacing guide and print that out. It'll tell you how long each step ought to take you. There's also the handbook there and the toolbox to help your child have a successful science fair experience. So all the curriculum is provided if you are or if you're not following our curriculum. So then what is the review of literature? Well, most of our students want to jump right into the experiment because honestly that's the fun part. Well, before they can do that, we require that all students do a research paper. They need to become educated on their topic. So the word hypothesis means educated guess. So during this phase, we want our children, our students, to become educated on their topic. So when they talk with their judge in February, they are the expert. They know everything that's going on with their project. So that's the purpose of these next few weeks, is for them to become educated. They also need to become educated in order to set up their experiment. They might not know how much of this or exactly what ingredient they need to research that. Also, if they have any kind of mathematical formulas or graphing needs, they need to research how to do that as well. So this is the education side, the research phase to get them ready for their hypothesis and their experiment. So over the next 6 weeks, your child will be finding 5 or more sources. They'll be reading a whole bunch. They'll take notes on that curriculum, on that material. They will develop a thesis statement. They're going to write an outline. They're going to write a rough draft, edit it, and then the final draft. All that in the next 6 weeks. Their final paper should be 4 to 6 pages in length. All right, so the next part is looking at the toolbox itself. Now, the toolbox is available in 2 different formats for your convenience. One is a PDF version, so you can certainly print that out if you want to and mark it all up. The other is as a wiki. So you can, if you have plenty of computer time and ability to do that, you can just click on the wiki and follow along that way. But go ahead and take a moment to see. Make sure you've had a chance to look at the whole toolbox so you have the big picture, but then focus in on day by day. It can be overwhelming if you think you need to do all of that in a week. You don't. You have 6 weeks to do all those steps. So look at the big picture, but then encourage your child to just take it a little bit at a time. All right, so the first tip I want to give you is don't get behind. It's very easy to let a day slip. Maybe you're going out of town and you don't bring your work with you, and then all of a sudden you're behind. Please don't get behind. Look ahead what you need to do that week, get it done. If you have to, work on the weekends or work over Thanksgiving break. So I know my sons are in high school now. They have homework every weekend. So it's just something that they're going to need to get used to. So now's a good time. If they fall behind during the week, then maybe a little bit of time over the weekend. And then lastly, ask for help early. Don't wait until your conference to tell your ES or your teacher that you're having trouble. Please contact me, your teacher, your ES right away if anything is at all confusing. I'm making appointments with students all the time. I'm emailing students all the time. I'm very happy to help you any step of the way. So please contact me early if you're experiencing some trouble. All right, so let's go ahead and look at steps 1, 2, and 3, what you're doing this first week 1. So step 1 is to just figure out the topics you're going to research. So in the toolbox and as well on the PowerPoint, it gives you some recommendations. So what are the keywords or concepts you need to know? What information will help you form your hypothesis? What information will help you design your experiment? What formulas or equations do you need to become familiar with? And then, is there other research done on your topic? Are there other experiments done on your topic? Go ahead and research those. So right now, for step 1, you're going to make a list of all the things your child needs to know to make their hypothesis and design their experiment. So let's play the game Which Doesn't Belong. So this is again on the PowerPoint. So the question is, will seedlings grow faster under white, blue, or red light? So that's a student's question. So here are some topics they made a list with. So they said, well, I need to know light waves and color. I need to know about hypothesis. I need to know the nutritional value of tomatoes, and I think I need to know the growing requirements of the seedlings. Well, one of those does not belong. Which one is it? That's right, it's C. You don't need to know the nutritional value of tomatoes in order to do an experiment on light and color. So this was a real example from a real student. The student actually did their whole paper on tomatoes and never once mentioned color or light. So they did not do a research paper that helped them at all design their experiment. How will you make a prediction of which light will grow your plants the fastest or the tallest or the fullest if you don't know anything about light or photosynthesis? So if you're unsure of your topics, email them to me. Ask me if you're on the right track, and I'm again happy to help you. So then step 2 then, you're doing this week as well, is to make a preliminary outline. This is a drafty outline. It is done in pencil. It's going to be scribbled out. It's short phrases or words. It is not at all the complete outline that we do later on in this unit. So this is just off of the top of your head. What is the organization of your child's essay? This is very important to give them just, again, the big picture of where they're going and what they need to do. So have them do a very drafty outline, taking their step 1 keywords and concepts and now putting them into a very rough outline. How do they think their paper will go? And of course that'll change as their research develops. So again, this is a very drafty draft, not their final draft at all. It's just short phrases and ideas. And then step 3, finding resources. Your child needs to have one resource that is not internet. The rest, they can be internet, but they need to find one that's non. So remember books, remember libraries. So one step or one idea is to go to a librarian and ask for help looking up a book. The other idea is to use an expert. We strongly encourage you to find an expert. It just makes it real interesting to find someone who knows about the topic and who can tell you firsthand their experience with the topic. So an interview can be your 5th resource. Other ideas, you can find scientific journals, you can find books books, magazines, encyclopedias, and so forth. Now, what are you going to do with those notes once you start taking them? Well, you have a couple of choices. You can write them straight into your daily log, so hopefully you have a daily log that you are working in. And then the other idea is, of course, to do index cards. So either one is fine. Your index cards and notes will not be collected or due with your research paper, so they are just something to help you with your process. So let's go ahead and practice. So here's a student's science fair project. Again, this is a real one I've seen before. Question: which candle, paraffin, beeswax, or soy wax will burn the slowest? So that's their question. Okay, so let's go ahead and think of step one. What topics would that child need to know in order to come up with a hypothesis and design their experiment on those 3 different waxes and their rate of burning? You have some ideas? Well, here's some that I came up with. So I'm going to try to put these in front of here. Here's one. What are the properties of the 3 waxes? So we talked about properties in Unit 1. So what are the chemical and physical properties of paraffin, of soy, and of beeswax? So that would definitely be something they need to know. The next one is, what are the types of candles? There's lots of different sizes and widths of candles. Does that make a difference in their project? Which type of candle will they use? The tall, skinny ones, the short, fat ones? So that's something they probably want to investigate. Here's some other ideas I came up with. How do candles even burn? That's a good question. What's the chemistry behind candle burning and wax and wicks and so forth? And then, how are candles made? That might be something that is significant, something they might want to know to develop their project. So that's just a basic list of topics. So the next step in your PowerPoint and in your toolbox is a preliminary outline. So this is, again, drafty draft, not sentences, not phrases, not anything permanent. This is just off the top of their head without even researching anything. So here's what mine looks like based on what I just said. So I'm going to start out my research paper, I think, with the properties. So here are my 3 properties. I'll have 3 paragraphs about each type of wax. And then my second one, sorry, my very high-tech way of showing you things. I might then talk about the types. Tall, skinny ones, wide ones. See, I haven't done my research yet, so I don't really know what they're called. So it's okay if your child writes that. It's fine. They'll fill it in later with the real information. And then third, I might talk about the burn, maybe the chemistries or what factors help a candle burn or hurt a candle burning, because they need to set up their experiment. They don't want it in a drafty space and so forth. So they need to research what's the optimal condition for their candles to burn. All right, and step 3 would be resources. So think about it. Where would you find information about candles? Well, definitely the internet, and then find some experts. Think about a candle shop owner. Think about people you know who burn a lot of candles. I bet they know what kind of candles burn slower. So go ahead and think about the resources you might use, the Google terms you might research. And then I have an example on the PowerPoint. Now, one thing with sources, you can get more information from a source than you think. For example, the source might have a bibliography itself or works cited page. There's a bunch more resources for you to look at. So look at the end and look for other resources that you might use. Also, look at some names. Look at the author of the article. Look at the scientist who's quoted in the article. You might want to try to track them down and send them an email. Maybe they can be your expert and you can do an interview via email. That's exactly what my son did when he was doing his science fair experiment at Coastal. He found a great article or two and he tracked down the scientists who were mentioned in the articles, and we sent out about 8 emails, and we had about 4 reply, and they answered his questions, and he was able to provide quotes from these experts in his paper. And we never met them, but he had expert advice just using articles. So that's it. Happy writing, happy researching, and please keep me in the loop. If you're having trouble, if your child needs some guidance, I'm definitely available to help you. So good luck, and I look forward to reading your papers at Unit 2 conference.